if he's going to return from that hamstring injury that left him out of last week's game against the Bears. All right, we got everyone here with us. We have Damian Woody, Kimberly Martin, Freddie Coleman. Damian, I want to start with you here. If both play, who is going to have the bigger impact on the field on Sunday? Will it be Antonio Brown or Michael Thomas?
Oh, it'll be Michael Thomas. And, you're talking about, one of the more prolific duos in Drew Brees and Michael Thomas. This is a guy that had the most prolific year in NFL history as far as receiving was last year. And really, when you look at the New Orleans Saints, that's been the aspect that's really been missing on their offense. Michael Thomas just seems like a guy that whenever Drew Brees goes his way, he's always going to catch the ball. He really flourishes, particularly in the middle of the field between the numbers. We know that Drew Brees is kind of challenged as far as pushing the ball down the field. So he always has a reliable target in Michael Thomas in that way. And with the injuries to Emmanuel Sanders and question marks on the outside, a guy like Michael Thomas, if he's healthy, that's a dependable, one of the best receivers in the league that Drew Brees will be able to depend on for the New Orleans Saints, and that'll be another huge weapon outside of Alvin Kamara that he'll have at his disposal.
Damian, you used the key word if Michael Thomas is healthy, and that's still going to be a big question mark, but something strange is going on down there in New Orleans with Michael Thomas beyond the injury, because it's one thing to be injured, but it seems to be a lot of things that I'm wondering what's going on, if there's a disconnect that is going to carry onto the field, and Drew Brees and Sean Payton, if there is a disconnect, will have to make that right outside of the injury to Michael Thomas. But in terms of impact, I think Antonio Brown's going to have a bigger impact on Sunday, because if he is as right as what they've been able to say, and I can't wait to hear him later on today when he speaks at the press conference announcing his arrival to be on the football field for Tampa Bay. You have a guy that Mike Evans and Rob Gronkowski and Tampa Tom are going to look at and say, this is going to make things easier for our offense. They're not going to worry about a pitch count with him. I know Bruce Arians, the head coach, said it could be 10 plays. It could be 30 plays. If he's effective early, that brother's going to get the ball. He's going to get the ball a lot. And you're going to have to honor him. And when you do, if he has a big impact early, that's going to make everything so much easier for that offense and make that defense, which is more than pretty good, feel a lot better. I think because of that, and he's been waiting to get out there to show people he should have been in the NFL long before this day, that Antonio Brown's going to have a bigger impact in that game on Sunday when the Saints take on the Buccaneers, which should be an out-of-sight game in the NFC South.
All right, let me break this tie real quick. I'm going to go with Damian on this one. Michael Thomas. It is Michael Thomas. I agree with you, Freddie. Antonio Brown he's a guy that you've got to key in on and roll coverages his way. However, the Saints need Michael Thomas more than the Bucs need AB, and here's why. Because the Saints, the last 4 games, they won by only 6 points or less. That's a huge problem. Alvin Kamara cannot do any more than he's already been doing. They've been asking him to do a lot in Michael's absence. He hasn't played since week 1. He is a huge possession receiver for him. Yes, the injury is a concern, but if he is on the field, you've got to go to him. You've got to feed him, because this Saints team in this division, they don't have the same amount of weapons as the Bucs have right now. And I think with Brady, yes, he's got Evans. He's got Leonard Fournette. He's got guys that he can distribute the ball to. But really, the Saints, they are really missing Michael Thomas.
Kimberly, there's no doubt about that in terms of the need factor. There's a bigger need to have Michael Thomas on the football field for Drew Brees than Antonio Brown being on the football field for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I just still wonder about his impact, because as great of a receiver he has been, and for my money, pound for pound, he's the best wide receiver in the National Football League. He has his Twitter handle, Can't Guard Mike, for a reason, because that's not just a Twitter handle. That's a fact when it comes to Michael Thomas. Right. But I just wonder about his conditioning, because when you're out with a hamstring injury, there's always going to be that, how much can I push it? What can I do? When can I do that? And in that precision offense, that is the New Orleans Saints, there's a lot of dips and darts. That's something that Alvin Kamara's been really terrific at. So, yeah, they need Michael Thomas from that standpoint. I wonder about his impact in terms of what kind of impact is he going to have early on, or even as the game goes along. Can he be that dominant receiver in his first game back from the hamstring injury and whatever's going on in that organization? I don't question the health of Antonio Brown, because we know that guy's a workout fiend, especially when it comes to catching the football. that impact may be a lot better for him early on with Tampa Bay than Michael Thomas and the New Orleans Saints. But Kimberly, you're exactly right. Boy, do they need him, and they need him to be that can't guard my guy that we've seen. Because if he's like that, all of a sudden the Saints may have a little bit of a closer edge, not only over Tampa Bay in the South, but maybe closer to a team like Seattle, who many people believe could be the best team in the NFC, or if Tampa Bay is that team, then you have that advantage by having that guy back, making that kind of impact for New Orleans.
You talk about conditioning. We haven't seen Antonio Brown play meaningful football since 2018. I mean, think about that. That's like 2 calendar years that we've seen meaningful football from Antonio Brown. And listen, I get it. Antonio Brown, for my money, he's been the best wide receiver of this generation. Like, he's been that good. But the fact remains that we haven't seen him on a football field. Now, adding him into the mix, will it pull some coverage or something like that from other guys? Yeah, it probably could. But if you're talking about which one of these guys is going to have more impact for their respective organizations, you got to give it to Michael Thomas, because, again, so much of the load for Drew Brees and that offense has been on Alvin Kamara. It seems like that's all Drew Brees looked towards is Alvin Kamara, because he's that type of weapon. Now you add in a Michael Thomas. Yeah, he might not be 100%, but the one thing that we know about Michael Thomas is between the numbers, he's an assassin. He's a guy that seems like he always gets open. Like you said, his handle can't guard Mike. So the New Orleans Saints needs him back in the mix in the worst type of way.
Yeah, I understand what Freddie's talking about. There seems to be trouble brewing or something down there in New Orleans. I get that, yeah. But that's off the field. When he steps on the field, you're talking about production. All that stuff, disconnect with Sean Payton allegedly, whatever. That doesn't matter on game day. And I just think with Antonio Brown, I think stat-wise, it's easy. Michael Thomas is going to have a bigger day stat-wise. But Antonio Brown, he is going to make it easier for other guys to do what they do, because you have to account for him on the field. Defenses have to pay attention to him. But I don't think in his first game, after not playing so much, we haven't seen him at all, like Damian's saying. I don't think you can bank on Antonio Brown having this eye-popping stat sheet. Now, we can bookmark this, and we can air this on Monday and see if I'm wrong.
Oh, don't worry. It's going to get bookmarked. You better believe that.
Freddie's about to post it. Freddie will save this and post it. And
no doubt.
Yeah, but...
Look, guys, when it comes to Antonio Brown, you really don't know what to expect on or off the field, really. So, Freddie, I want to ask you, how is this season going to end for AB? Is it going to be good, or is it going to be...
Ooh, that's a great question, Charles. I'm going to say it's going to be good, because there are too many people in that building that are not going to put up with his foolishness. They're not going to have him bring that kind of chaos. And if Antonio Brown doesn't realize that, then you know what? He fooled us all along once again. He fooled the Raiders, he fooled the Patriots, and he fooled the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think he should be in a kind of fooling mood, because he clearly knows you could not have asked for a better situation if you're Antonio Brown getting back into the National Football League. It's one thing to get back in, but you're now on a team with a loaded defense, a Hall of Fame quarterback, a Hall of Fame tight end, a coach that knows how to dial up plays with Bruce Arians, a terrific offensive coordinator in Byron Leftwich. You could not have picked a better situation to jump back in and have an immediate impact when it comes to Antonio Brown. So I don't think he's going to be released, because if you're Antonio Brown, it can't just be about you more than ever before. You are not going to have a better situation than this, and you get a chance to finally get a chance to win something you have not won, and that's a Super Bowl championship. Why would you throw that all away just for your ego? If he hasn't learned that by now, then shame on us for believing in him, and shame on Antonio Brown. But I don't think he's going to be released. I think it's going to want that he stays with his team, has that kind of impact, and makes that Tampa Bay Buccaneers team even more dangerous the more he gets used to that offense, and the more that offense gets used to him.
Yeah, listen, to piggyback off Freddie, listen, Antonio Brown chose to be with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, he had options. He could have went to the Pacific Northwest to play with Russell Wilson, but he specifically chose to play with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because he understands he wanted to be reunited with Tom Brady. And I think he does feel a certain level of feeling indebted to Tom Brady, because Tom Brady has lobbied for him to be with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think this is a guy that's hungry. He was, basically out of the league, watching everybody else do their thing. And I think this guy's going to come in ready to go and ready to contribute right away.
For the Bucks' sake, I hope, like you guys are saying, he's learned from his mistakes and all that. But his track record tells me that he has only cared about himself. That it is about him. That he has been in situations. He was with the Patriots. That we were talking about. This is the great setup. You got Brady. He had Brady already, and it didn't work out. And by season end, you hope that Tom Brady's not in his house, like packing up AB stuff, putting in a suitcase, wondering like, oh man, what could have been? And then showing him the door. You hope it doesn't end like that for the Bucks' sake.
This would be the best episode of House Hunters ever. Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, and Giselle. If we could ever have hidden cameras like that, it'd be the best House Hunters ever.
They need to put a camera in that house. They need to put a camera in the house. I mean, just everything we've seen from Antonio Brown's Instagram, too. Remember when he ran out of the house, jumped in the pool when he found out he was being released from the Raiders? I mean, the guy is a little bit crazy. So definitely going to be interesting to see what happens on Sunday night. This is a primetime game, Saints, Bucks. And we know from the last time that Antonio Brown faced New Orleans, of course, this was years ago, 14 receptions, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. That was with Big Ben. This will be with Tom Brady. Guys, we'll see what happens. And we have lots more First Take right on the way. We're going to keep it moving with more NFL to discuss. So who do you think, guys, has been the bigger bust this season? Cam Newton